Good afternoon. The House Committee on Families, Children, and Seniors will now come to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Chair Young.
Present.
Representatives Copia.
Present.
Glanville.
Here.
Arvid. Edwards.
Here.
McDonald.
Present.
Wozniak.
Here.
Fox. Johnson.
Here.
Thompson.
Present.
Madam Chair, you have 8 members present. You have a quorum.
Wonderful. I need a motion to approve the minutes of our June 27th meeting. All right. Representative Copia? Great. All right, well, let's not prolong the hour. It's been a busy time. It's good to be back. Everybody's feeling good, looking good, all right? I'm excited about our presenters on today. This is a very important subject matter, understanding how the state cares for those who are, we like to call them seasoned citizens sometimes. And so we're going to go ahead and ask for law representatives to come join us. Thank you so much. With us on today, we have Paige Fultz. She's our Director of the Office of Policy and Legislative Affairs for Lara. Thank you. And with you, who's that? Is that Jay?
This is Jen.
All right. Jay is with you. I know, the dynamic duo. We're going to make some things happen. We're going to really get an understanding because it's about, it's hard to do anything without having understanding. And so for me, we've been working on some legislation around adult foster care, and I said, it's just time to level set before we take testimony on that so that we understand what all the different types of assistance is out there. And we don't want to ever start to move into a different lane when we're proposing legislation. So this is a good time to help level set. I'm grateful that you're both here, and feel free to begin anytime you like.
Thank you guys so much for having us. Good afternoon, both Chair Young and members of the committee. I am Paige Fultz, the Director of Legislative Affairs in the Office of Policy at LARA. I do have a couple of my colleagues here today. As you mentioned, dynamic duo, but we do have a trio in the back right there as well who's going to assist in answering some questions if needed. We have Jay Calwartz. He's the Director of Adult Foster Care and Licensing Camps. And then we also have Jerry Hendrick, and he's the Manager of Adult Foster Licensing Section. Larry Horvath, who is our director over it, actually had a personal conflict today and couldn't be here as originally planned, so we do apologize for that on his behalf, but we are doing our best in his absence. Any questions, of course, we'd be happy to take back to him and the rest of the Bureau if needed. Just to start, really what qualifies as adult foster care. And this slide, I want to focus on the fact of the types of individuals that are, defined in this. So you need to provide services, at least 3 unrelated individuals. They need to be aged, mentally ill, developmentally disabled, or physically disabled, and the care that is provided needs to be 24 hours a day, 5 days or more a week, and for more than 2 consecutive weeks. And then the types of services that are provided are listed below, but I wanted to just kind of break them down a little bit more details. So when we talk about room, we're really talking about housing. Board, we're talking about meals. For supervision, this is really guidance and reminders of important activities and appointments for the individual. Personal care, so this is assistance in dressing, hygiene, grooming, and medication assistance. And then protection, which is really focused on ensuring that our individual is, very well cared for, safety and health of that person. So there's more to adult foster care, than just providing the room and board and some of those other basic needs. Adult foster care does focus on trying to improve the residents' physical and intellectual health for that and ensure functioning and independence. And then also really encourage self-direction and normalization and encourage cooperation among the residents that are within the same facility. So this is really a slide to let you know what adult foster care is not. So the biggest piece is it's not a health facility. That's number one. It's not a nursing home. Really, that level of care is not provided at these types of facilities. Their level of their acuity doesn't require that type of need. Home for the aged. I know on the first slide I mentioned aged, which would be there, but just want to make sure there's a distinction. So home for the aged is seasoned, home for the seasoned, is 55 and older, and then 21 or more residents. So that's specifically for home for the aged. And then AFCs are capped at 20, but also, as you saw on the first slide, it includes a lot more than an age. So, the mental capacity in different pieces along those lines. So just want to make sure to have that distinction. Substance use disorder, again, going back to slide one, to bullet one, it's not a health facility, so that is not what's being offered there. And again, the amount of residents and the mental health that they are receiving at that. So these are not CMHs. And anything that has 2 or less residents that are receiving care in a home, that also does not qualify. So really, in the definition, that third person is what moves you over to an adult foster care. Thank you, Jay. Want to give you some basics about our numbers as it is today in Michigan. So we have 3,818 right now. And I did want to flag that is 500 lower than it was pre-COVID, because I did think that might be a question that would come up. So I wanted to make sure you guys had that readily available. The number of residents, total capacity to serve is 32,000. And then Lara's role in general is issuing licenses. We do renewals, inspections, and investigations. Really, the goal is to investigate compliant allegations that result in a statute or rule violation, and we work with providers to get them in compliance first, if at all possible. So some of the licensing actions that Lara has the ability to, that's set up in statute or rules, these are the types of plans. I just want to also, which is why I put it bottom in bold, so just want to make sure it's understood. The way the law is written right now, Lara, we have no provision for fines, which is a question that frequently comes up, if a facility has been fined for something. So just want to make sure we have that is not one of the features and abilities that we have under our belt. The top ones are, we work on corrective action plans, provisional licenses, which is those, without getting into too detail, it's, you have a license when you're out of compliance, it's for 6 months renewed, and that's under the work of a correction action plan. We can get into more details. Jay, actually, when I say we, Jay can get into more details during questions if you're interested on that. Refusing to renew, completely taking the license away, and then the summary of suspension. So wanted to touch briefly on administrative rules. I know everyone has read them all, so I know that this is going to be a review, so I apologize for that piece. But just wanted to make sure that we touched on licensing consultants and what they provide. They offer technical assistance. They ensure that requirements are being met and can offer different types of consultations with developing methods of improvement for adult foster cares. There currently are 55 adult foster care licensing consultants currently. 55, yes, that are right now. Oh, sorry, I jumped a slide. So their qualifications, they are highly qualified individuals. They have master's degrees, and then that does focus on a variety of different areas, primarily social work, but the other most popular ones for their master degrees are psychology, sociology, criminal justice, and family studies. Again, many of these individuals who are interested in this type of work have previous experience with all of the above that we've been talking about for adult foster cares and who's in it. So I do want to mention here that they are, not typically licensed as having an own individual license in that they are, the licensing consultants, they have their master degrees in these individual areas. Sorry, I think I'm out of. Yes.
I want to be clear about, what if I heard what you say? You're saying the licensing consultants don't necessarily have a license to be licensing consultants? Is that?
No,
What, I'm like, is that what she said? I wanted to stop right there, so
So
I
they're
was
like-
starting to have clarity.
Yeah, so social workers, they have a master's degree in social work. but
Right.
They don't have a social work license, because typically you don't need to be licensed unless you're providing some sort of counseling to an individual. So that's why they
Okay,
don't.
got it.
So the only ones that are typically licensed are the ones that have supplemental employment and may do that on the side on the weekends type of thing.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Sorry about that. I like to see if people are awake at lunchtime. Sorry about that. The slides looked like they were slightly out of order in what I was working on. I just wanted to talk to you about the staffing requirements. And again, happy to answer questions about individual staffing requirements as we go through. But there's different types of adult foster cares, and there's one staff, 1 to 6 residents, so that obviously would be the maximum capacity of 6. We have 1 to 12 residents, which is for small group homes, and then 1 to 15 during waking hours, or 1 to 20 during sleeping hours for the larger homes. So really here, a licensing consultant would come in and they'd provide different services like reviewing residents' assessment plans, their healthcare appraisals, fire drill records, those types of pieces, and they would look to see if something needs to be improved here. Does a resident need enhanced supervision that they will not be getting? Is there multiple staff needed to transfer residents? Is there, a gap in care there? Were all staff able to evacuate in a timely manner during a fire drill to determine if more staff would be needed in those ratios? So that would really be what the licensing consultant would be assisting to do during that time. The actual staff that works inside the facility. These are their qualifications that are currently set up. So you must be 18. You have to be able to follow written and oral instructions related to caring for residents. You must be able to meet needs of residents and handle emergency situations. The tasks that are assigned that you must be proficient in before working in the adult foster care would be, reporting requirements, CPR, personal care, resident rights, safety and fire prevention, and then containment of disease. So those really are the qualifications that are the individuals that are working inside the facilities. And then there's also a medication training piece. Again, not a healthcare facility, but part of it providing care is ensuring that individuals receive their medications and help ensure that they receive them on time. So staff is trained on the proper handling and administration of medications. And then really, they have a medication log, so I thought that was important to include here so you guys knew what they were keeping track of, such as the dosage, the label, the time it's administered, who administers them. And then there is a provision if a resident refuses to take medications. Again, this is not a healthcare facility, so you cannot, there's no forcing of that piece. So at that point, the individual who would be helping with medication would be reaching out to a healthcare provider, and they would be requesting help and assistance for that and that time and next steps. Did you want to say something? Oh. So just a few pieces in case you want to learn more about the training and go through it yourself. Laura does have training that's provided online. It is free of charge for administrators and staff, and it does include a test, most of them at the end, and there are on-site trainings in various regions as well across the state to ensure that adult foster care has the proper training that they need. And then just wanted to share some online public information about being able to look up those over 3,000 facilities that are licensed. You can go on and look up information about them. Wanted to make sure everyone had that available to them. And then also just a link to provide just general details related to adult foster care. So really the biggest piece I wanted to, make sure to conclude with is that it's not, there gets to be a confusion of what an adult foster care does and the services that they provide. It's not a nursing home by design. It makes it more cost effective, but also when needs of residents become more acute, they should be moved out of an adult foster care setting. So with that, Chair, I would be happy to entertain questions.
Excellent. And Jay, you didn't have anything to add before we go straight to questions? Just,
No, I'm good.
you good? Okay, all right. Put on your seatbelts. No, I'm just teasing. Because this is really a serious issue, and it's important for families to understand what to expect when they're looking for facilities to place their loved one. It's just that simple. And so one of the things that I'd like for you to do is just take a couple of minutes between the two of you and highlight some of the specific differences. You've done it a little bit, but I know there are more when it relates to when somebody needs to be moved from the adult foster care over into the nursing home setting. And then in addition to nursing home, are there like two others, the homes for the aged?
Yes, Homes for the Aged is focused. That's the one where it can be above 21 residents and 55 and older. So adult foster care has a broader type of resident, where Homes for the Aged, it's focused on age.
And but they still are in the same type of mental and physical capacity as those who will be in the foster care, regardless of them. Like there could be a person with a disability in the AFC, correct? So over in the Home for the Aged, there couldn't be a person younger than 55 there, but you're still getting the same type of services. That's what I'm trying to be clear about.
Yes,
Right.
the list of the 5 that we had said for
Yes.
providing.
Right,
Yes.
right. So when you start to look at when it's time for the family to make that difficult decision, they want them to be able to stay in the adult foster care facility, but they're starting to see some things that are causing them to think, I'm probably gonna have to move grandma. What are some of those signs that people should be looking for?
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest point is they can't provide 24-hour nursing care in the home, right? So if and it's really gonna depend on, maybe not necessarily to a nursing home, but it could be just another facility that can provide a level of care. So some of our adult foster care serve a population that is pretty self-dependent. They just need prompts, reminders. But if they need additional services, they may need to move to another adult foster care home, or they may need to move to a nursing home if it's medical care that they need. And we don't really get involved in as far of a standpoint of actually making the decision that a person needs to move to a more acute state. That's not really our role. Because there are other options. Say, for example, if someone were to go on hospice, they may need more care. They're allowed to still stay in that adult foster care home, but a hospice agency then would come in and provide, the care that they may need, so they can stay in that home. Because I mean, the goal is to be in the least restrictive environment as possible, and sometimes that is tricky, right? Of can you stay here and still be provided care? So when we come in and look, we're looking, is the facility able to provide care that the resident needs? And if not, is there somebody else that is either bringing in the care? And if not, then we need to have that conversation of you need to be transferred to another facility.
Okay, okay. The other questions, I don't want to hog all the questions. I know the first person that said she had a representative was Representative Betsy Kofia. Oh. Right, she came and talked to me in my ear.
Thank you for your presentation. So I guess I had two questions. One was sort of how the public can currently view violations by an adult foster care facility. And then my follow-up question is, with Laura being the regulatory agency over adult foster cares, if there are improvements to the AFC system that we as the legislatures should consider. So two questions. Where can the public see violations by a facility, and what improvements as the regulator?
So we have
What do we consider?
on this slide, the adult foster care, statewide search for adult foster care, that website. You can go there and search either by facility name, license number if you know it, address, and it'll pull up every adult foster care that we license in the state. And on that, you will also get, we upload all our initial inspections, as well as renewals and any complaint investigations that we substantiate a violation. So complaints are a little bit different. We only post ones that are substantiated, but the renewals and the originals are always posted there.
And I'll answer the question related to improvements. So obviously, we're always looking to improve. Just want to mention that Laura does rely on the Adult Foster Care Advisory Council. So I would say that, ideas and improvements frequently are run through experts in the topic. So we would defer to some of those to them to also provide information on.
No one touched on how we're working on those now. Or no? No? Okay. I guess so.
Representative Thompson.
Hi, thank you very much. When you, and I'm sure that this is required, but I just want to double check because it wasn't listed on here, when it says must be performed prior to employment or must have the ability to perform, when it talks about the certain things that was required, are there background checks done on employees, obviously, that work in AFC homes?
Yes, all anybody that has direct access to residents have to go through a fingerprint background check.
Okay.
There's the statute allows for conditional employment where they can work in the home under supervision of other staff that have been fingerprinted while their fingerprints clear sometimes. But yeah, to work, especially to work alone, you have to have fingerprints, and all staff basically have to be fingerprinted.
Do they also go through the process of any CPS reporting, where it would be the
Central
what is
registry?
yes, the
Is that
central
what you're talking
registry.
about?
Yeah, are they ran
that's-
through the central registry as well?
So part of that fingerprinting, they check with state police, they
Okay.
check several registries, and they check with FBI.
Perfect.
For crimes.
And then with compliance or competent in first aid and CPR, does that mean that they're required to have a BLS certification? Or they just have to demonstrate?
You can go.
Okay.
It's fine.
So the rule is worded that it doesn't necessarily need certification, so we provide consultation on that piece, that's what we recommend. But we do allow, if they're able to demonstrate
So
competency, then.
right now, they're currently not certified in BLS.
It's not, yes,
Yeah,
it's
it's
not a
not required, no.
certification,
Okay.
the way that it's worded in rules and statute.
One more question, if I have a little leniency. In working in long-term care and never working in group homes or AFC homes, when you talk about a medication log, I'm assuming that they're administering every type of medication that could be given that's oral. I know they can administer PEG tube medications as well. Is that correct? If a person was on a tube feed.
I would have to check on that because that's starting to get into healthcare facility. So I will have to follow up with
Okay.
you on that. I apologize.
So the
but
the medication would most likely be oral, possibly internal.
yes.
Okay.
Insulin. is another
Insulin,
one, yeah.
okay. So if do we know, and maybe look into it, if they're giving any type of PRN medication, whether it be antipsychotic, anti-anxiety, narcotics, are they doing any type of symptom documentation
Yes, so.
prior to the administration and then a follow-up on the reaction to the medication? Did it work? Did it not work?
So yes.
Okay.
They have to document the reason for giving any PRNs prescribed as needed, if anybody didn't know that. Oh shoot, I had another thought and I lost it. Okay, sorry.
No, that's okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for joining us today and for your presentation. I'd like to ask a couple of questions on the consumer protection angle, which is, a couple of things. One is, I represent a district community in West Bloomfield where we have a lot of nursing homes. We have a lot of adult foster care facilities. I just was at one. Yeah, go Lakers. I was just at one on Friday. It was a great visit at JARC, which I had been volunteering with in my childhood as well. But I wanted to, just get your sense of perspective on whether there is an issue among the general public in terms of understanding, when, as Madam Chair said, understanding, when it comes time, to seek out options for long-term care for a loved one, whether there is confusion between the different competencies, the different modalities and levels of care at an adult foster care facility versus a nursing home versus a home for the aged. These different, which I just want to get your sense of: is the public familiar with these different levels of care, and have there been issues where someone is admitted to a potential facility, perhaps in a manner that was inappropriate or not the right venue for them to seek that care, and they could have had a different a better experience in another place where they probably belonged in the first place, and whether there has been issues with that with regard to payment too, right, in terms of coverage and all of those things. I'm just trying to get a sense of are there issues in terms of understanding this, and has it had an impact on families?
So any impact that it would have had on a family that needed to had the right and would have filed an investigation, and then once the investigation is closed, anything that would be able to be made public would be made public online. I would say that individuals probably always have room for learning, but the way it is, like I said, adult foster care just is not a health facility. So, those types of decisions that you're talking about are really made with an individual and a provider. And these individuals who work at adult foster care, they are not the provider that they would be working with. So that would really be a discussion for a physician.
Can I
Oh,
add
yeah.
something? One thing I just want to add is part of the admission process into adult foster care is you set up a resident care agreement, and it outlines the care that's going to be provided to that individual. So that's a good time, obviously, as you're trying to place somebody to figure out, is this the right setting for my loved one, right?
Yeah.
Because they should outline in that every service that they can provide and what the cost for that service is. That's one of our requirements.
So you're not aware of any incentives in this whole process, or any sort of loopholes that we're missing that would make a facility administrator perhaps misrepresent the kind of care that they are giving to someone seeking placement for their loved one. There's really not an issue there.
If there would be an issue of someone where that happened, an investigation would be started.
But
and
nothing
we
like
would
systemic
investigate
wide.
it.
There's no trend here that you're seeing that that any of us could take. Okay.
Not systemic,
Perfect.
no.
Okay, perfect.
There's
Thank
always
you.
a couple bad apples, right?
Okay.
But yeah, most part, that's not an issue.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I might have a couple of questions, if that's okay. And thank you for being here today. I've had quite a few folks reach out to me about the bill that's kind of involved in this whole discussion around adult foster care. So I had a couple of things I wanted to just make sure I follow up on. And just to reiterate, I want to make sure I'm understanding the training. It sounds like you just go through some online modules, and they have those little 3-question tests at the end or whatever. And so again, following up a little bit, there's no actual certificate or required level. I mean, it sounds like a pretty low bar in order to become an administrator or something. It's, I think of it as akin to, when I was teaching, I had to watch a bloodborne pathogens video. So is that the kind of training we're talking about, or is this training that has like an actual like sort of exam attached to it or something? Like who's monitoring that they've passed the competency or whatever?
So I would say overall, the way the training is designed is how it's been set up in rules and statute, which have been set by the lawmakers before you. We offer a training, but it's not the only one. There are many third parties who offer one, and then individuals can ask their, hiring staff to be taking those if they, don't like the one that the state is offering for free.
So they're required to go through some kind of training program?
They have to be able to meet the requirements that's set up in statute, and to be able to do that, the state gives an option for the online training that we have right now.
Okay, all right. And so then I also wanted to understand who can complain? You said there could be complaints.
Anybody. So there's,
Yeah.
so
I understand that can maybe be an issue.
as in,
Somebody who's maybe not a legal caregiver or authorized.
anybody can complain. So,
If you're having a constituent issue too, we can talk offline.
No.
We'd be happy to help.
No.
yeah, but
No, I just had heard that this was a potential, I'm trying to understand the difference, as we've talked about a little bit, between a nursing home and adult foster care. I know that there are navigators out there who can help you choose the right type of facility. And I was hoping too that you might be able to speak a little bit to the client bases that maybe get served by adult foster care. My understanding is that a lot of times we're capturing maybe some low-income folks who would otherwise maybe be, living in their car or something along these lines, or with very little oversight or care. Like this is maybe an entry point to healthcare, and maybe the cost is lower. Can you talk about like the cost, or how adult foster care is funded? Who pays what? Is it a Medicaid thing?
it's all over the board. So,
I know.
so we have, that's what makes it complex, right? So, someone you still have to need personal care protection and supervision in order to be admitted into adult foster care. So it wouldn't be someone that's, borderline homeless, and this is just a place to give them housing. That wouldn't be what adult foster care is. But, where was I going? Shoot, I did it again.
I was asking about kind of the cost of care.
Yeah, so cost of care. So cost of care can range there is a Medicaid reimbursement. I don't know exactly. DHHS is the one that actually funds that. There's CMH, who actually gets funding through DHHS again. So DHHS is probably a better to speak on funding of adult foster care. And then there's also private pay. So you could be in like most of our aged facilities are primarily private pay.
And I can reach out to them and get you a list. I'll make a note of that, so you don't have to bug them.
Yeah, and sometimes it varies on what their needs are. So depending on the level of supervision, if a resident needs one-on-one supervision because of maybe some behaviors that they have, obviously they're going to get paid a lot more than somebody that just needs some prompting every once in a while to wash up or take their meds.
And just to be clear, in those cases, you would contract out if you didn't have available staff. You would maybe hire out for somebody to come in and do that specific one-on-one care with that one client?
If the goal was for them to stay there, third-party care can be arranged, but it doesn't necessarily have to be.
Yeah, so the contract care is going to be more like nursing versus supervision is something they usually don't necessarily contract out.
But you could contract out additional care if somebody needed care that was beyond. I mean, when we're talking the 1 to 15 ratio, if there's somebody who needs, like you said, more advanced, or you talked about hospice as an example, like
Or
there's an
like
ability-
visiting, like a home health aide could come in if they needed additional help. Yeah, that's another thing that happens in AFCs, yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's probably it for now.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. This is helping me even with more understanding when you talk about a potentially home health care worker could come in, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're ready to move to the next level of care. But there are some different, I don't know, some stop gaps. You can fill some gaps to allow them to still be able to stay in that same facility. So that's good. Representative Wozniak. Okay,
Thank you, Madam Chair. In your presentation, it states that we've got about 3,800 licensed AFCs in the state. Okay, do you have any idea? First of all, it says that number has dropped by about 500. Why people would be getting out of that business? And so, you know, it doesn't. There isn't a reason given there for that.
Yeah, I can guess. So primarily, it's going to be staffing.
Yeah, and we honestly aren't going to be able to guess. We don't do exit, questionnaires for that. Staffing has come in as an issue that has been flagged for us, but we don't do any form of, when someone, chooses to give their license up of why.
Yeah. Do you know if there are quite a few numbers of unlicensed AFCs?
So we only are responsible for licensed
That I know.
AFCs. Yes. So
That's
the unlicensed,
the other question.
yeah, the unlicensed AFCs would not be Lara.
Yeah, so the only thing we do with unlicensed is if we get a complaint that somebody thinks they should be licensed, we can go out and investigate, and then we'll give them notice. If we determine they need a license, they either need to apply, cease operations, or change their business plan where they're not providing adult foster care. And if they continue to operate and do not apply for a license, we have gone to and gotten injunctive relief to stop them from operating. So.
But there's like an underground AFC market out there too?
I wouldn't call it an underground market.
No, you're right. That's not a good term. Not a good term.
Yeah, so if someone were to file a complaint, that's something we'd look into.
Okay. And no idea about how many might be out there like that.
No, we track licensed.
That I got. But thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah.
No, that's good, that's good. So I want to go back to exit interviews and surveys. So I'm just curious to know, do you all have data on the ones that you all closed? Of course, you know the ones that you had to terminate their license, so we know why they don't exist and how many of those potentially are in about that 500, right? And then who are the ones that closed the doors on their own? They said, we can't do it for whatever the reason. And at some point, I think it would be smart to ask, what's the reason? Because I'm not clear about knowing that there's a need in this area, if there's a way to help them before they make that decision. If you could.
Jay can talk to you about ones that the number that we have closed on our own. It is not the 500 number is not the number that was closed due to the pandemic.
Yeah, I don't have the numbers exactly, but yeah, it's way less. It's probably,
It was 34. Hold on, I have it.
Well,
actually.
that was last year, not since the start of the pandemic.
Yes,
So that's
but we can give you the numbers for last year. So Laura issued 34 notices of intent to take licensing action. So that is where we were at from last year.
And then when you issue that, now I'm looking process, is that when they get into one of those corrective,
No, so when. we
you've
issue
already
no-
done that?
Well, yeah, so if we issue a notice of intent to either not renew or to revoke their license, that gives them notice that we're taking that action. They can appeal that, and they have appeal rights, and so that just starts the process if they want to appeal it. So we can't just close a license. We have to allow them under statute they have that right to appeal.
Maybe, am I missing it? Then you guys talk about there is an opportunity to correct the problems?
Yes, yeah, the corrective action plan is
Corrective
not part of
action
the
plan.
notice.
Yeah, I'm
so
like,
anytime
where is
we
that? Okay, so
anytime
once
we-
you reach that point, they've already done a correction
So-
action plan? That's what I'm trying to understand.
So if we're gonna revoke a license, we're not gonna ask for a corrective action plan. A corrective action plan is only when we cite a home for a rule violation or a statute violation. We want them to provide in writing how they're going to remedy that rule violation, and then we'll follow up with them afterwards to make sure they implemented their corrective action.
Okay.
So I
You
just,
have a problem, you came in and you talked to them, they agreed to the correction action plan, right? They didn't do it.
Yep.
Now that's when you move into the revocation, now that's when you let them know, okay, because you refuse to correct your problem, we're about to take your license. I'm just trying to understand, is that how it works?
That's one of the options. I believe when Jay was first speaking, it was more, there is a point, if it's a safety issue, it doesn't, you don't
even
get
need that.
offered the
Okay.
corrective action plan. It's, your license is removed. So there's different
There's an
paths.
extreme.
Yes, yes.
Okay, because it's about the health and safety of the residents. So, okay, that's good to know. Representative Edwards.
Thank you. I think Rep. Young did steal my question, but it's okay. I'm always advocating for the protection of individuals that need us to really protect them, which is our vulnerable populations. Most families are reluctant to place their loved one in an AFC home or any home outside of their family residence. Can you provide more information on what happens when the facility violates those rules, so that families would feel more comfortable with placing their loved one in an AFC home?
I guess your question more is how is the license taken? Are you asking more about the corrective action plan
I'm asking you
process?
for more information on when a facility violates the rules.
Yeah, so if they,
What's the steps for that besides this corrective action plan? Because you can essentially close your doors and reopen underneath another name, maybe. That's what families believe. So can you provide information on those details?
yeah, so it depends on the seriousness of the violation, but yeah, we start out obviously with the corrective action plan, and then, as I said before, we'd want them to, write how they're going to fix those deficiencies, and then we'd follow back up on them. If they're not fixing it, or if it's a repeat that we come back out again, then we will progress through the licensing actions. We don't necessarily need to start at provisional license. We can go to refusal to renew or revocation or summary suspension. But if the facility is working with us, our main goal is to get them back into compliance. So we don't keep dropping in capacity, because capacity is an issue, obviously. But there is obviously some instances where we taken the extreme measure, 3 this year, where we did a summary suspension. That's where we go out that day and say, this is not safe for someone to remain in this home. And we work with Adult Protective Services, and we relocate all those residents on that day. When we revoke somebody, or refuse to renew or summary suspension, that goes in our system. That administrator, that owner, that licensee corporation is red screened, as we call it, in our system, so they can't just close and reopen. They have a 5-year ban under statute from participating in any care in an adult foster care arena.
And also, our office is in connection with them, and we reach out as well, letting individuals know that it has closed in the legislature, if one in your area.
For summary suspensions.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
The 5-year ban, and then we're going to get to Representative Glanville. The 5-year ban.
Yep.
Are you looking for the individuals' names who opened? Because I know that's what we see. We see that when it comes to housing, we run into those issues all the time. And one bad actor will just open it up in his sister's name. And it's the same people doing the bad work. So we're just trying to understand, how is it that you are able to know who, once you kick them out?
Yeah. So
making certain they don't come back.
Yeah, and we've struggled with that too, because it's the individual's name. So, and sometimes the daughter then opens up, or the son, or whatever. We can't prevent the daughter or son, if they weren't previously tied to it, from applying for a license and getting a license if they're competent. But what we can do is, if that individual that was originally revoked on, the parent came back, we could take licensing action against the son or daughter who reopened it up. If that makes any sense. So they can't be involved whatsoever, not even remotely.
Okay, so they could not be on the staff.
Couldn't be on the staff. They
There
couldn't
you
be involved with paperwork, finances, off-site. They
be the
can't be
clerk.
involved
There you go.
whatsoever.
Okay, all right, very good, very good. That answered my question. Representative Glanville.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
oh, sorry, do we have McDonald?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I have kind of a crazy quilt of questions here. I've been crossing them out as they get asked. Thank you for your presentation. I have kind of consumer's experience in this. My mother kind of went through a lot of different residential experiences over 10 years. So I have some questions about that. Could you tell me, an AFC family house, what is that? Up to 6 people. Is that where the owners live in the home?
Yes,
Okay.
so that's the main difference with the family home is the licensee has to live in the home with the residents. And then, like you said,
Okay.
a maximum of 6 residents in that home.
Okay, cool, I've seen that. With the CPR, they have to show their capabilities with CPR, but do they have to have updated certification for that?
So that's another one where the rules don't specific, they just say you have to be competent in. That's
Okay.
something that we, as a consultants, when our licensing consultants go out there, is like, the easiest way to show that you're competent is to have
Yes.
yeah, otherwise you have to
Yes.
show us how you meet that rule without that updated CPR card or first aid card.
And that's not a terribly expensive thing to do to get certified on a regular basis?
No.
So, okay. Is there any requirement, or well, I guess I can't ask you if there could be, but any requirement that an AFC decides to say this person is no longer able, we are no longer to care for this person? Or is it possible that an AFC home could keep a client beyond really their ability to care for them?
So, yeah, if they can't care for them anymore, they can discharge that
They
resident.
can, but do they have to? Is there anything that
If they
forces
c-
them to say, we can't handle this anymore, or can they go on?
Well, they need to be able to provide the care that the resident needs, and then obviously we have licensing administrative rules that we could cite that in, that licensee if they kept that resident and weren't able to provide the care they needed.
Okay, great to know. I have maybe kind of a different question than some of the people are asking, because I recognize from having been through this and having seen a lot of different residential options, that there is a lot of confusion at that entry point and how that works. And one of the things that concerns me is these for-profit agencies like A Place for Mom. There are a lot of commercials and advertising everywhere. All you have to do is call this number and we'll set you up. And those organizations are in no way regulated, I am imagining.
So if they would like to provide adult foster care services in Michigan, they would then need to apply for a license.
Well, these are like places that you call and they give you names. They supposedly give you advice on the best place for your loved one, but they have no regulations over them, I imagine.
We do not license them,
Right.
no.
So that always has seemed like this soft spot there where if you're not confused what places are, if you're don't know the best place for your parent, and you have this for-profit telephone bank pushing you in one direction or the other, that just seems to be a scary part of the system that we have now, to me. Let's see, any other questions I have? The 55 consultation and technical assistance, the 55 people, does that seem to be a good number? Are they overwhelmed, or are they able? Do you have any sense of that?
So, yeah, so we have 55 licensing consultants for the now 3,800 and change. So it's about,
a lot.
it's a lot.
Yeah.
But we're managing, I would say. The one thing I would say is complaints have gone up, and I think that's a direct relation to the staff, the shortage basically in the industry. Because a lot of our complaints,
Right.
when we start investigating, we determine, that somebody's new and hasn't maybe been trained as well as they should, and they put them in a shift because they couldn't get anybody else. So,
In terms, this is my last question, just had this whole pile of them. In terms of how people can put in complaints, I know when I was visiting my mom in a nursing home, that there were always flyers posted on the walls, I'm sure by regulation, that if you have a complaint, call this number. Is that true also for adult foster care?
Complaints can be done snail mail, they can be done online,
No, I mean,
phone.
is it required that it's posted
It's not.
inside?
Oh,
no, it's
yeah.
not required to be posted in AFCs. I think some of the thought process behind that is AFCs are supposed to be home-like environments, and by having that bulletin, but I'm not saying
But
that
just-
should or shouldn't, but I think that's kind of why it wasn't added when it was added to the nursing home regulations, so that it had to be posted.
Just a thought, if there's some confusion or doubt, I mean, sometimes when you're dealing with an agency, the only people who you have to ask questions of is the person, for example, who's running that AFC. So it would be nice if they had, just my opinion, it'd be nice if there were postings.
Yeah, so that's why I just wanted to double check before I said something. So part of the admissions packet is how to file complaints with us, though. So it may not be posted on a bulletin board when you come in, but it is part of the admission package.
Okay, thank you so much for taking all my questions.
No, thank you, Representative. You waited patiently, so you deserved your opportunity. The clerk was like, please call on her. Then she circled your name, and I still, so my apologies, but thank you. I think, I don't have any others on my, oh. Are you good? Okay. So I have at least one more. Because I understand that there is a big worker shortage in every industry. That's just how things are right now. I'm still trying to figure out, I know we had COVID, but where did everybody go? Did they get rich during COVID and nobody has to work anymore? I don't know what happened. But with this, as it relates to 18, I don't know, that age, and I know you guys have a reason for it, but how often do you revisit? And do you have statistics on like how many 18-year-olds you actually have doing this work? And the only reason I say that, you know, many of us here are parents, and I have 2 sons, and my oldest son, he was always quick to say, I am not grown when he was 18. He said, I'm not grown at 19. Every year he got older, he said, I still don't feel grown. He said, I still don't feel like, you know, I'm ready to just take the world. And at 25, he's just now feeling like, okay, I got my own place. I guess I'm grown. So I'm just curious because this is still, I know they don't need, this isn't nursing home type of care, but you do need to be paying attention to what's happening in this home. And so I was just wondering, like, how many 18-year-olds potentially are doing this work, and has there been any talk or any consideration around raising the age? Even though I know we have this worker shortage, but making certain we have the best qualified.
So the age was set, obviously, so we'd be happy to review any possible legislation or changes that you guys are interested in. But 18 is what we've been assigned to work from. So that's what we have. We do not keep track of data of the flow of the age in and out.
So I got you. So you don't keep track, therefore we don't know how many 18-year-olds are currently working.
No,
in
yeah,
the
we don't know how many are out there, but
Yeah.
we have some people that are 35 that struggle, and we have some that are 18 that do just great,
Do
and vice
just
versa,
great.
right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. It was
so
just a
I don't
question.
know if 18's a huge issue, but you know, like Paige said, we're open to discussion on that.
No, that's fine. Okay, any other questions, committee? You all right over there? Okay, all right. Well then, look, you guys did an amazing job. Thank you so much for coming and presenting before us on today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, okay. All right. Well, there being no further business before the Committee on Families, Children, and Seniors stands adjourned. Thank you.